Is it going to be possible for the SEC and Bama to rise again?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA's radio network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. We'll talk about Game Time here in just a bit. Also, thank you everydayers for being here every day, and thank you newbies for being here today. So, Jimmy, we did the SEC squad show last night that will air later this week. And one of the main topics was, has the SEC really fallen backwards? I mean, the national narrative of everybody's caught up with the SEC, and it's only because NIL is above board, which just irritates me to no end, because you're going to tell me, okay, if you're going to accuse the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Auburns, the Georgias, the Tennessees of illegalities, which, you know, hey, look, I get it. We all know our stories. You're going to tell me none of that's ever happened at a place like Ohio State? None of that's ever happened at a place like USC? I mean, it's happened everywhere. So, again, I think that needs to be let's let that go. And here's the other thing, the national narrative of, okay, well, the SEC didn't even have a team in the national championship game for the second year in a row. And finally, people like Nicole Auerbach and Danny Cannell and some dude I've never heard of at CBS and, you know, Tim Brando, all those types tweeting out things like, oh, the committee got it wrong letting the Denver Broncos in, didn't they? Well, working backwards, my first argument to that is, yeah, there are too many teams in the college football playoff and there are too many teams in the NFL playoffs. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. So, secondly, you know, that's true. The SEC hadn't had a team in the national championship game for the second year in a row. That's true. 100%. Can't refute that at all. It's facts. Still facts. The SEC has, I think, 7 or 8 of the top 11 recruiting classes, according to On3 in the country. And they have won a gazillion in a row before this last little bad stretch. And the last time there was a stretch like this, Florida State, then Ohio State, guess what happened? The SEC went on a pretty good little run outside of Clemson winning a couple.
Yeah, I think a couple things can be true here at once. It's not just, well, the SEC's overrated or the SEC's down or the SEC's over. You know, a couple things can be true. Number one, the SEC is down, you know, and I'm a big SEC flag waver, but the league as a whole is down. The top of the league didn't seriously contend for number one. And there was a disappointing number of teams that earned invitations to the college football playoff. Alabama was not among the teams that earned an invitation to the college football playoff. I just insist that SMU didn't either. Now, my question then becomes, okay, the SEC's down. It's not as good this year. Maybe even took a little bit of a step back last year, but definitely took a step back this year. But that still doesn't mean it's not the best conference, because if the SEC is not the best conference, what is? There's only one remotely acceptable answer to if the SEC is not the best conference, what is? And that answer is the Big Ten. But I would contend that while the Big Ten did have a winning record against the SEC, although I believe it was 5-4, and 3 of those were in bowl games, is that really the matchup that would have happened, you know, in the middle of the season without opt-outs and playing in a bowl? I'm still not convinced that the Big Ten is better than the SEC today, and I'm certainly bullish on the SEC being better than the Big Ten going forward. I think this is more of a one-off than a true plummeting of the league. I don't think this is going to be a trend. I think it's more of a one-off. And I also don't believe that the Big Ten's better than the SEC right now. I think it's closer than it's been in recent times. but the SEC is still the better, deeper league, particularly when you're talking about the middle and bottom of the conference.
And not only that, going back to the NIL thing and above board or whatever, I've said this before, the NIL is helping the northern teams. Not only, Ohio State was recruiting well anyway, so whatever. But I think the NIL is helping, and now is helping Michigan, I think, because they have a guy who's worth about $233 billion who's decided, hey, I want to help. It's helping Oregon because they have Phil Knight who said, I want to see a national championship before I die. But I think where it's really helping the northern teams like in Notre Dame is the NIL is saying, okay, look at Penn State, for example. Their whole backfield, Drew Aller and the two running backs who are both Nick Singleton and Keytron Allen, both coming back. I think that part of that's probably, hey, look, I can come back to Penn State, make as much, if not maybe a little more than an NFL rookie, and be a legend and maybe move on and play for a national championship and get that, feather in my cap. So I think that's what's happening is guys who would go pro because they were like, look, I got to go get that check. Even if I'm getting something under the table, it ain't as much as an NFL rookie check.
That's the absurd part. There shouldn't be NIL deals or revenue sharing deals. There shouldn't be enough to justify, I'm not going to the NFL, I'll make more money here. There shouldn't be that, because imagine if I said, hey, the top prospect in Alabama this year is Tank Jones from St. Paul's and Mobile. He's the top prospect, but St. Paul's is going to pay him so much money, he's not going to go to college next year. That would be the dumbest thing you've ever heard, right? Well, isn't that what we're talking about when a kid's saying he's going to stay in college instead of turning professional because he makes more money in school? We shouldn't have that situation at all. And by the way, I want to throw this out there too, just real quick. I think we're too quick to believe these gigantic figures. I'm not sure they're accurate.
Agreed. And we've also heard the rumors already about some places like at Georgia, there was a rumored mutiny about, hey, we hadn't gotten the money we've been promised. Now, did that really happen? I don't know, but I can believe it. It's not like this rumor that's out there that I'm like, no, there's no way that happened. I can certainly believe that. I think the kid at UNLV, the quarterback that left sort of in the middle, had the same sort of thing happen. It's not going to shock me at all because there are no contracts. So it's sort of like, you promise me something and it's a handshake agreement, a pinky swear, and who knows what's going to happen.
There are contracts, I think, where things get screwed up. Probably the written contracts are the ones that are fulfilled. I think what doesn't get fulfilled are these oral or verbal contracts. Coaches' promises during recruiting that don't get fulfilled. And believe it or not, I can tell you as a lawyer, not all contracts have to be in writing to be enforceable. You can have an orally agreed upon to contract if all the proper legal elements are in place to create a contract. It doesn't have to be in writing in that type situation. Only a few specific types of contracts must be in writing to be legally enforced. But I think if you think about, like they say, well, Carson Beck's getting $6 million from Miami. Maybe that's true. I don't know that it's not true. But what I do think I know is that Ohio State had a whopping payroll this past year of $20 million, which was whopping. So Miami is paying, what's that? Almost a third of a $20 million budget to one player. What are they doing with the other 84 players? Paying them $1? I mean, so if you're paying one guy $6 million and your entire budget is 20, you're going to have a lot of upset kids in that locker room that are making next to nothing while the Ferrari driving quarterback,
that's the other catch. Isn't that the thing? Isn't that one of the reasons that Alabama has lost some guys? That we believe that Alabama's attitude is we're trying to keep this as even as possible. Now, the name, image, likeness side, the Bryce Young's going to make more than the punter. We understand, but everything else we trying to keep it about even, because when those numbers get out, whether they're real or not, somebody's going to go to the coach and go, I'm better than that dude, and I'm here and he's making $6 million. And even if the coach says he's not getting $6 million, somebody's going to say, well, I saw it on the internet. Must be true. Now, one other thing to point out about the SEC and its, rumored demise. Here's something that bothers me. I looked, everybody's just in love with Penn State right now. They made the Final Four. Great job. I think that's wonderful. They've got Drew Aller coming back. He may not be awesome, but he's good enough. Let's see. Then you got the 2 running backs coming back. That's great. They're in a good conference. But, I looked at their non-conference for next year. Yeah, they're playing non-conference games. Now, they don't play Michigan. They do play Ohio State, and they do play Oregon. But they play Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova. They play 3 airports. And
that's their entire non-conference schedule?
That's their non-con. And Alabama, meanwhile,
league makes fun of the SEC for scheduling. That league makes fun of the SEC for scheduling, and that's
Alabama's got Wisconsin and Florida State, along with at Georgia, along with at Auburn, along with Tennessee and LSU and Oklahoma. I mean, ours is a who's who, and theirs is a who's that.
Yep.
So I mean,
it's outrageous.
Yep. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to talk about some offensive, defensive needs for Alabama next year. But of course, I'm going to tell you about Game Time. Game Time's the absolute best. I love it. I've used it for everything, and can't say enough good things about Game Time. You need to go check out the app. You can see where you're going to be sitting. You're going to get the best price guaranteed. And if you use code LOCKEDONCollege for your first order, you get $20 off. And here's the thing, $20 off when you're already paying the lowest price is guaranteed. That's a lot of money off. I might be going to Kentucky to see Bama beat the Wildcats. And if I do, I'm going to use Game Time for my tickets. That's how I do. And I've used it for everything, for the World Series for my son, used it for the Peach Bowl, got a sweet seat for $100. Can you believe that? I've used it for other bowl games, used it for NBA, college basketball, college baseball. I've used it for concerts. You can use it for anything too. Go check out Game Time and download that app. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first order. What time is it? It's Game Time. Our main men over there at Bama Online have come out with offensive, defensive needs for next year for Alabama in the recruiting class. A couple of great articles there, Jimmy, and I'm just going to let you rant for a minute.
Yeah, Andrew Bone has put those articles together, and they're very good reads over at BOL, kind of like what is Alabama specifically looking for in the 26 class. And Andrew does a good job of laying it out. But, I like making this super simple. In this age of the transfer portal, where it's impossible to know what your roster will look like year to year. For instance, Alabama had 23 scholarship players leave the team last year. And again, the vast majority of which it was fine. I mean, you needed to lose about 17, 18 guys just to make the numbers work anyway. I'm not talking about the overall number. I'm just saying that it's very difficult to tell year to year what your roster is going to look like. So what I would urge fans to accept going into a recruiting season is basically what you're trying to do is sign a whole team, because you don't know where you're going to really have needs. So you better have all your bases covered. So I think the very basic signing class is going to look like a football team, a quarterback, 1 or 2 running backs, 2 or 3 wide receivers, 1 or 2 tight ends, 4 or 5 offensive linemen, 3 or 4 defensive linemen, 4 or 5 linebackers, and 4 or 5 defensive backs. That's basically a complete football team. I think that's what you have to do every year now in recruiting, is sign a complete football team. Now, if you know you're going to be shorthanded in an area, maybe you can double up a little bit. But most of the time, I don't think you know that. So I would just look for a complete team to be signed on offense and defense. And that makes things sort of simple, right? And I think that's going to line up with what happens. Now, here's the fun curveball, if you want to call it, because everything in college football now is a curveball. At some point, the SEC is going to move from 85 to 105 on scholarship. As to exactly when that's going to happen, no one knows for 100% certainty. Therefore, recruiting is not being adjusted because you don't have a certainty. But it needs to be in the back of your head that maybe in 2026, and we're recruiting the class of 2026 right now, maybe in 2026 we go from 85 to 105. And once we do that, you're not bringing in 25 new guys in a year. You probably need to bring in about 35 new guys, if not 40. So, boy, is that going to dramatically look different. 40-man signing class, and there's just going to have to be a large one in that first year when you move from 85 to 105. So kind of look for that to happen. And here's something that's going to set people off. It's just going to set them off, Luke. You can set your watch to this. If you're signing, instead of signing 25, you're going to sign, let's just pick out a number, 35. Those 10 additional signees, I know everyone wants them to be 5 stars and 4 stars. They're probably going to be 3 stars. There's a limited, finite number of 4 stars, but everyone's signing more kids. Those will be 3 stars because it's not like there's going to be a new number of 4 stars available. It's going to be 3 stars. And when Alabama starts racking up these 3-star commitments, people are going to freak out and say that recruiting has fallen off and it's gone down the toilet. No one out there, not Ohio State, not Texas, no one is going to sign a class of 35 5 and 4 stars. It is impossible. It won't happen. That signing class, whoever finishes number 1, once we move up, is going to have a lot of 3 stars in their group, and that would include Alabama. So that's just kind of a word of warning or something to be on the lookout for. Might that happen in the class of 26? Maybe, but we don't know that. So you won't see concrete steps in that direction, but it's got to be in the back of Courtney Morgan and Kalen DeBoer's head that, man, when they move to 105, we got to be ready to offer and take more kids, because you don't want to have 85 scholarship players and just 20 walk-ons that you give scholarships to, yep, because other teams in the SEC are going to have 105 scholarship-worthy players.
And that may be a case, boy, and I may be talking crazy here. That may be a case where you take more 3 stars who are from the state of Alabama, who may have more of a tie-in and some roots here, in the sense that they would do want to play for the University of Alabama, and they may even be willing, if they get much better, to take a pay cut, in essence, rather than go to West Virginia and make X amount more. That's what I would kind of like to see, is some of these guys who, through the years, Alabama has passed up on, rightfully so, because they've been recruiting gangbusters. I understand. But I'm saying some guys that I've always wished, man, I wish we had gotten that guy. I know we couldn't, because we got 3 guys ranked a ton higher than him. But I've, as part of the AHSA radio network, I have seen some guys that I go, I like that guy a lot, but he's not Alabama caliber right now, in the sense that, Nick Saban was trying to recruit every year. If we had C.J. Mosley, he'd be trying to find somebody who's a little better than C.J. Mosley. And if he beats out C.J. Mosley, so be it. Now, that never happened. But you know what I mean. Yeah. So, but anyway, great.
I agree. That's where most of them will come from. I think that's what would happen, I believe. And, hey, it's the age of the transfer portal. If you bring in a guy and you reached and he's not good enough, he's just going to be in the portal fairly soon. It's not like in the old days when you were kind of took a kid you shouldn't have and you may be stuck with him for 4 or 5 years. That doesn't happen anymore. These kids, they want to play. Most kids aren't just going to sit there on the bench. They want to play, and they'll leave of their own accord. So if Alabama does reach for a handful of kids, they're going to leave. And, hey, when you got 105 guys now on your team on scholarship, so now you got even more scholarship players not playing in the games, they're all going to leave. I mean, so until the portal rules change, just get used to a lot of kids out and a few guys in. That's what the portal is going to look like until the portal rules change, and who knows when that might happen.
Okay, curveball here very quickly. One of our listeners, Michael Noy, out of Columbus, Mississippi, I believe, he has emailed me and said, listens every day, but he wanted to ask, and some other people have emailed me too about this, or reached out via social media or something else, sent me a telegram. They wanted to know about the Ryan Grubb situation. And I saw where you had a post yesterday that I thought was very astute. Look, every day that passes means the chances of Ryan Grubb are less and less. I know that most Alabama fans are out there like salivating at the idea of a Ryan Grubb, Kalen DeBoer reunion. But in the end, there's not a job opening right now.
Correct. I mean, for Ryan Grubb to be the offensive coordinator at Alabama, you'd have to remove the current offensive coordinator, and that may happen. Don't say Jimmy said that wouldn't happen. It might. It very well might. I think there's a line of reasoning that makes sense. Hey, Grubb has been DeBoer's right-hand man, and he's a highly qualified, proven OC, and he's available, and it makes all the sense in the world to bring him in, right? Okay, well, there's also, I would say, this argument of what I'd say fundamental fairness. You offered Nick Sheridan the job, and did he do great? No. But did he do terrible? No. And he had to work around some things. Don't have this opinion. To me, these two opinions are crazy. If you have the opinion that the quarterback was absolutely terrible and gave you no chance to win, and he's just not good at being a quarterback, well, then you must think really highly of Nick Sheridan. You must, because Alabama finished fourth in the SEC in scoring. Fourth. Scored the fourth most points in the whole league. So seems to me, if you're really tough on the quarterback, in fairness, you must be pretty happy with what Nick Sheridan was able to do. So look at it that way. I'm not sure Nick Sheridan has done anything that would justify his termination, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't see that myself. Others may. I don't. So now, could Grubb come in another role? I think that's something that's possible. I also think there's this possibility, Luke. This dude is getting paid a lot of money from Seattle to not coach. There's nothing wrong with taking a year off and saying, you know what? I think for this year, I'm going to make 7 figures sipping pina coladas on the beach while I earn 7 figures. Sounds like something Jimmy would do.
I'd do it with 5 figures. How about a new sponsor for today, Jimmy? That's what I'm talking about. I'm really enjoying the idea that Wayfair is a new sponsor for us out here in the world of Locked On. Look, after the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look or a new start to the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. I'm currently looking for furniture, and their huge selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit my style and budget. I'm looking for furniture. I got kids going to colleges and different things. I need all that stuff. The free and hassle-free delivery, even for larger items, is what's really my favorite part. Wayfair's site was so easy to navigate. I found everything I need in no time at all. There's something for every style and home. So look, give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every single home.
They got a killer show too on AMC, Wayfair Witches. You seen this?
Is that the witches that they conjure up new furniture? Yeah,
it's a good show. It's exciting furniture magic hour on AMC.
Okay, so Jimmy, tonight, Bama basketball. Bama 11-point favorite against the Ole Miss Rebels tonight, who, by the way, are tied for first in the SEC along with Alabama. And going to be a tough game, but I feel really good about where this team is right now. I'm really digging the way everything is coming together, and very, very excited about the game tonight. I hope there's a huge crowd. I've got a show I do every Tuesday night, so most Tuesdays I can't go. I'm going to go next Tuesday to Vanderbilt, so if anybody's going to that and you see me over there, I'd love to see you. But Ole Miss tonight, Darian Reed looks like he might be out. Obviously, Latrell Wright's out. Houston Mallett's out, and I don't know what's going on there. Do you?
Houston Millette is got a knee issue, and their plan right now, it appears, I don't think there's been a final decision, but they may hold Houston Millette out the rest of the season because of his knees and apply for a medical redshirt for this year, stating that just through injuries, he's just unable to finish or unable to go, and therefore plead with the NCAA for another year of eligibility for Houston, so he can play another year, hoping that this year of rest fixes his knee. Apparently, he had these knee issues at Pepperdine as well, and they aren't new. It's kind of been a chronic thing for him. So Houston Millette may be out in the same sense that Latrell Wrightsell is out, and then Alabama would just play with their 10 guys. Now, the good news is all 10 are great players. All 10. They're great. They're not just good. I think all 10 players at Alabama that they play are great. Reed being out would make Alabama a bit shorthanded. Now there's 9. And that's a little tougher. Now, they somehow survived all that foul trouble at College Station with a win. So I think they'll find a way. I'm excited about tonight. This is what I'm looking for, Luke, is, you either shoot well or you don't. Alabama hasn't always shot it well, but what I've been super impressed by is that they win anyway. And I know some people will say, you know what, I would like to see a blistering hot night from 3. And I agree. Who would not want to see that? But this team has to learn and to continue to improve and learn how to win when the shots aren't falling. Because once the NCAA tournament arrives and it's do or die, you got to win no matter what the situation is. And if it's a night that the shots aren't falling, you got to win some other way. So I would like to see Alabama continue to find other ways to win other than just relying on the 3-point shot.
Uh-oh. You there?
I'm here.
Okay, I thought I'd muted and I wasn't muted. That's a first.
How about that? You super volumed. What's the opposite of mute? You turned it up.
Unmute?
Turned up. Turned up.
Turned.
That's the opposite of mute.
You look, what I want to continue to see is the growth of Cliff Amore. I want to continue to see Mark Sears getting to the rim and creating his shot that way. And then that, clears out more space for everybody else. You got to contend with that a little more. I want to continue to see LeBaron Phylon grow. It kind of irritated me today. I saw ESPN came out with their first team all freshman. LeBaron Phylon nowhere to be found. And I'm like, look, I know Cooper Flagg's going to be on there. He should be. He's probably the best player in the country. Janai Broome may win the Wooding Award, and I get a Wooden Award, and I get that. But Cooper Flagg is nipping at his heels now. He's
no shot at Janai Broome. If I'm an NBA team, I take Cooper Flagg number 1.
Oh, I don't think there's any. I mean, Janai Broome's not even projected to go in the first round, which is weird. But that has nothing to do with who should win the Wooden Award, granted. But Cooper Flagg, especially with Janai Broome being hurt, I think that Cooper Flagg may win this thing if Duke keeps doing what they're doing. Now, having said that, how many other freshmen out there? I mean, would you take the Jeremiah Fears kid out of Oklahoma over LeBaron Phylon? I don't think I would.
I haven't seen enough. It wouldn't be fair for me to say, so it's not I watch Fears play all the time. I don't know. I just know this. I'm super happy that LeBaron Phylon plays basketball for Alabama. I'm super happy that he does. And blindly, I wouldn't trade him for any freshman other than Cooper Flagg, who I've seen enough of to confirm, I'll take Flagg over Phylon. But I don't know that I'm taking anyone else just in terms of what I've seen with my own eyes. But I'm just happy that Phylon's here. Let's remember how close Phylon at one time committed to Auburn, and then certainly
signed with Kansas.
Then signed with Kansas, and Alabama not really in the picture, even though he's an in-state kid. And we're very fortunate. And shout out to Nate Oates and Preston Murphy for making it happen that LeBaron ends up in Tuscaloosa. He's been fantastic, and boy, is he fun to watch.
Boy, if we needed him. Now, here's one thing I also want to look for. The brain gas towards the end of games where we got really careless against A&M, we got to stop that.
Sure.
That's got to stop. I don't know where that even originates. I mean, everything was so good. We had them beat. We gave them hope. And if the same scenario comes up at Kentucky, at Tennessee, at Auburn, we're going to lose. Because I think they're all 3 better teams. Now, A&M goes to Kentucky tonight. That's an interesting game.
Playing with fire.
You're playing with fire. But you know what? This team is still on fire, and they're leading the country in scoring, and they're a ton of fun to watch. And I don't mean to nitpick because I'm in love with this squad. So let's just enjoy what we got. And so that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.